So, today we're going to talk about how you can deduct your holiday party. And believe it or not, it's easier than you'd think, but there are some rules around this to pay attention to do this the right way and to avoid an audit. So, if it's time for the holidays and we're thinking about hosting some social gatherings this year, what I want you to remember is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act actually did away with being able to deduct entertainment as an expense. I know it's such a bummer. I was so disappointed to see that they took away that deduction because a lot of business owners were using that and had to then no longer deduct those off of their books. So here's what the rule does allow for. The rule will allow for entertainment to be deducted only if it is for the sole benefit of employees. So now your holiday party actually can fall into this loophole. So if you invite 100% of your guest list as employees, the entire party is 100% deductible. Now, it has to be for the sole benefit of employees and their families. They can bring their spouses, they can bring their significant others. If they are all invited, 100% deductible. Now, what if you're thinking, well, Shannon, it's not just going to be my employees. Like, I want to invite some of the contractors I work with, maybe some business associates, some customers, some vendors. So they are 50% deductible. They are 50% deductible. And if you're going to invite them, you have to be able to justify a substantial business element to the party. So it's not just the annual office holiday party for the employees. Like, why are you inviting all these other people? And it should be relatively easy to prove why that would be beneficial, but you want to make sure that you're just documenting that. And what I highly recommend is because of this blending of 100% versus 50% deductions and the fact that you may have both at your party, what I recommend you do is you keep a guest list and you also put a category in of employee, contractor, vendor, customer, family member, whatever they are to you, so that your accountant knows fully what they can and can't deduct and how much they can deduct. So put the cost of each person's attendance along with their classification, what category they fall into on your guest list. And that will be huge to help justify the cost that you're trying to deduct. That will be a fantastic piece of support when it comes to an audit. Another great piece of support for an audit would be the invitation list to show that you've invited all employees. And by the way, it's always a best practice to invite all of your employees to avoid any type of discrimination or making anyone feel lesser than or not included. So always invite everyone. Word gets around the office. So always invite everybody and always be super clear in your invitation that this is a office holiday party for your company. It shouldn't be ambiguous. It shouldn't just be like, hey, come to Shannon's house for a barbecue on Saturday. It should be join us for the annual office holiday party at whatever address and obviously tell them if what the attire is and what to bring, things like that, right? So make it really clear on the invitation and save a copy of the invitation for audit purposes if needed to prove that you held that party and that's exactly what it was for. So again, if you're inviting employees, they're 100% deductible, the cost of your employees attending. If you're bringing contractors, vendors, customers, and other business associates, that's 50%. Now you might be thinking, okay, Shannon, so I know that a tax strategy that I've heard you say before is to hire your family into your business. So what if my spouse, what if my child, what if my parent is one of my employees? Could I actually just have a family gathering? Could I have everybody over for dinner if all of my family members are employees? Can I have everybody over and deduct all of that as my office holiday party? Unfortunately, the answer is no. So, what they did allow for in these rules was to disallow any expenses for the holiday party related to the business owner's family members. So, you cannot bring your mom, dad, husband, wife, children, and have their costs be deductible, unfortunately. So, those are 0% deductible. Now, you can still, by the way, you can still bring them and pay for everything with the business card. This is what you should do. Pay for everything with the business card or business checking account, right? There is no need to split all the costs when you're on site paying the vendor for the party. You'll pay for everything with the business credit card or business bank account. What you'll then do is work with your accountant to figure out what is deductible versus what needs to be allocated to personal expenses. So don't worry about figuring all that on the front end. Just have a good time at the party. Don't worry about splitting checks and receipts and things. Worry about all of that after the fact. But what does matter is keep the receipts, keep the guest list, keep the invite list with the categories of each person, and your accountant can work their magic on that. Okay. So, the last piece to keep in mind around the holiday party is that it has to be reasonable in terms of it not being extraordinary, lavish, extravagant, right? We're not talking about a Kardashian holiday party, and we're not talking about, something that a Zuckerberg or an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos would throw. Okay. We don't want to be teetering on realistic by their standards, right? We want to be realistic for a small business. I'm also not saying it has to be at Chuck E. Cheese. I'm also not saying it has to be, with a Costco sandwich platter and a Spotify playlist. Okay. I'm saying that it can be reasonable and fun and a little bit on the expensive side if you want to treat your employees well, but, keep it within reason. My husband threw a fantastic holiday party last year at Dave and Buster's. That was fun because he was able to have his employees go be competitive and play video games against each other. And it was a ton of fun. So you actually can have it, in a non-traditional venue. Don't just limit yourself to, appetizer platters, cocktail hour, and some of the more traditional corporate gigs that we're used to. You can have a little fun with it. Even escape rooms, things like that would be fun. So just keep that in mind. You can absolutely go a non-traditional route, and there does not need to be a meal involved in order to make it deductible. You can absolutely pay for those experiences for your employees. And here's the thing when it comes to being lavish or extravagant. There's actually an accountant that I follow on social media, and I recommend you follow him as well, Tyler McBroom. And he uses this term called the grin test. And I love this. And the grin test is if you were to get audited and the IRS were sitting across from you and they read out loud a deduction that you took. Let's say they read out loud your holiday party and they read out loud the different expenses that you're taking. If you're on the other side of the table grinning or smirking, then chances are that you may have overspent on what you're trying to deduct. The grin test is basically the check to see, okay, what is your own reaction to you getting away with deducting these expenses? So we're not saying you have to be super, super conservative, but if you want to avoid an audit, keep it reasonable. That's all we're going to say. You want to make sure you also have lots of evidence to back it up, like I mentioned. So again, keep the invitation that you've extended to all employees and classify all of the guests on the list. Make sure that you've got all of your ducks in a row, everything's documented, and you've got copies of these that you're able to produce in the event of an audit. And have a ton of fun, obviously responsible fun at your holiday party. And do let me know, message me, shoot me a text. My number is 860-609-6374. Let me know what you're planning for your holiday party. And if you have any questions on what you can deduct, happy to help. So I hope you have a fabulous time celebrating. I would love to join you. I am so excited that our team is growing and we'll be hosting our own parties again very, very soon. And I wish you and your team well and hope to see you soon. Catch you in the next episode.